What's up everyone, it's me Ollie, and today I'm bringing you the best way for you to level your Barbarian in Season 8 of Diablo 4, Belial's Return. With what we learned during Season 7, we now know that for leveling, nothing is gonna beat the Moni Tec setup with Launching Strike. Even after all the nerfs to Earthquakes are still 700 of your weapon's damage. That's better than any of your skills by a magnitude of like 10 to 20 times. It's still insane, it has great multipliers, and it's gonna demolish. Now, in this build guide, we're gonna go over what you even do before you get those runes, which you should get super early since they are magic runes. By level 30 or so you should have them. And how do you go about going from all the way from Penitent to Torment 4, at which point you'll be able to swap to a build like, for example, Whirlwind Earthquakes, which I'll have a guide coming out tomorrow, so be sure to subscribe to not miss out on it. In this video, I'm gonna go over the skill and the skill tree, the gear that you're gonna have for all the different setups of the build, the boss powers that we'll be using, both the leveling and then when we actually get the best in slot ones, the Mercenaries, which are pretty basic, and the Paragon and all the Paragon progression boards you could wish for. Links and timestamps down below as always, so be sure to jump around if you already know some of the stuff. Let's start with what do you do before you actually are able to get the runes. So starting off, we're going to be leveling with Bash and Upheaval. The reason we're doing this is because we want to proc this aspect as much as we can to generate a lot of volatile blood drops that you can pick up and do tons of damage. Don't you worry, even without the aspect, you're still going to be doing a lot of damage with Upheaval, but after you get, basically this aspect is the difference between you being able to comfortably do hard, but struggling a lot on Penitent, and whenever you drop this, you just go to Penitent and you one-shot everything. To do this, we're going to be trying to get as much source of overpower on the build. As you can see, we got overpower here, we got overpower here, and the reason we're running Bash is because every time you critical strike with Bash, you're gonna make your core skill guaranteed overpower, which, again, we want to proc more blood vials, and overpower just makes you deal a shit ton of damage. Now, first of all, you want you just want one of these Bash tempers on one of your weapons, ideally a one-handed, simply because your Bash hits twice now, so there's double chance for you to crit, double chance for you to, get your overpowers much more frequently. The other ones, you're just gonna go for Belligerence, because Belligerence, you could take double damage to Upheaval here, but Belligerence will just increase all your damage, your past damage, and most importantly, your blood boiling damage as well, right? This is gonna be the core damage of your build, so might as well buff this. Now, I only expect you to take this to level 30 to 45, I don't expect you to go all the way to 60, for that reason we don't even have a Paragon here, right? But starting off with our skills, we're going to be taking all the points into Bash, all the points into Upheaval. Make sure to grab this warpath once you start getting a lot of overpowered generation, so you can have this 100% of the time. We're going to be taking, again, a lot of ranks into Belligerence. You're taking all the 3 shouts, because that just makes the build much more simpler to play, much more smooth. And we're going to be taking Call of the Ancients for our ultimate, since it's just a really good ultimate early on. For our key passive, Unconstrained, just super easy. Thanks to Anger Management, you're just gonna have a lot of Berserker time, so you don't even have to worry about it, right? Now, one thing that I do want to point out, all the stats on the gear you can check by I'm gonna have the link down below, right? It's mostly just defensive stuff and damage stuff on here, but one thing I do want to point out is the resists. Here, this setup is only up to Penitent, so you want one resist of each on your helmet, on your body armor, your pants, and then you're gonna fill the other 2 with the resist you have on your rings, right? You're just gonna match whatever you have on your ring. You have gold, you put a gold gem there, and for example here you have lightning, you put the lightning gem there, and then you fill the other ones on the gear, correct? Then just by getting a diamond on your amulet, you're more than resist capped for Penitent. Now, going over to Launching Strike, which is when this starts getting interesting. So starting off, you can start this build whenever you drop Moni Tec. As soon as you drop Moni Tec, right, you have these 2 runes, you can just start the build right away. At this point, you're going to be swapping most of your aspects to Earthquake aspects, as you can see here. and you're gonna start swapping all the tempers on your weapons for just Earthquake cast-wise, and all the heavy hitter ranks you can get, right? The defensive is mostly gonna stay the same, right? Now you have access to the Bull Catalyst one for 30% damage reduction, which is insane, right? But everything else is mostly gonna stay the same when it comes to aspects. One thing I do want to mention here is Moni Tec. You can actually increase the rate at which you proc earthquakes, although there's some weird attack speed breakpoints there. One of them is 50-ish% attack speed, so you'll be using this aspect with Call of the Ancients to get close to 50. You don't want to go over 50, and you'll just be proccing earthquakes every 2 casts of Lunging Strike, which is insane, really fast. Now, when it comes to your skill tree, we're just gonna be taking basic points into Lunging Strike. We're gonna be taking some points here into Endless Fury. I'll cover why in a second once we get into the Ancestral part of the build. We're gonna be taking all the shouts, as always, just taking shouts everywhere. And then the secondary skill for your build, you can go Iron Skin, you can go Ground Stomp. It's kind of, you know, whatever you prefer. Lastly, we're going to be going over for accommodations again. In this case, we're actually going to be taking full advantage of this attack speed, like I was mentioning before, to get that 50%. And our key passive is still unconstrained as always. By the time you do get Moni Tec, I expect you to already have some boss powers in your pocket. So we're going to be running Alex Talents for your main boss power. This is just going to do a bit of damage whenever you cast Lunging Strike, which you'll always be casting, right? We're going to be running Cinerat's Flames, which will increase all your elemental damage, which your earthquakes are, and this boss power also is. We're going to be running as well Hatred's Embrace Haste. This is mostly to increase your crit strike chance because your crit strike chance is quite low here, so you know, might as well get a bit more damage there. And lastly, we're going to be running Blackmail or Sabotage. This with Whirling Cry just makes you have an insane amount of shield barrier, and you basically will become immortal with this. To a point you probably don't even need Iron Skin, but I have it here just in case you want to be extra safe during leveling. There's nothing really that much better anyway. You can check the gear here for the resists. Make sure to double check. These resists are here to cover up to Torment 2. After Torment 2, Torment 3, I expect you to get some uniques, and that will just help cover your resists way easily, right? Going on to the Ancestral setup. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention here, you can go to the Paragon, you already have a Paragon here. This starter Paragon, as you can see, it's a bit weird how it's set up. The goal here is to hit your damage spike super early, the earliest you can, so you can start doing a lot of damage early on. For the Lunging Strike starter on the Paragon, we're going to be chasing Force of Nature. This is the biggest damage multiplier you can get, so we're going to be going for it, right? Make sure to get close damage on your gear to actually put this up to the maximum. Then the next big multiplier is going to be Blood Rage. You're going to need some berserking damage on your gear. You'll not get it maxed out super early on, but as you get more gear and you level up and you get more points of the Paragon, this is going to be easy. And the last one we're going to get is going to be Weapon Master. This will give us a bit of resist, which will help early on, and another big damage. For the first 3 glyphs, it's quite simple, just going to be taking Martial. We're going to be taking Martial mostly for the cooldown reduction on ultimate, right? We're going to be taking Challenger, it's just an easy multiplier, and we're going to be taking Rumble, which is another easy multiplier for an Earthquake build, right? When it comes to the Paragon setups here, you're going to have the first one, which is just 90 Paragon. Then we're going to have another one with 46 extra Paragon. This is just fleshing out the boards you already have. And lastly, we're going to be getting the last board, which is going to be Decimator, and another glyph, which will make, you know, capping out the Blood Rage not much easier, which is going to be Ire. And once you actually hit your Ancestral setup, you see the board is going to swap. That's because at this point you can just refund all points and start going through this board, which I have 2 setups here, as you can see. Now, when it comes to the gear, we're going to be running uniques now. We're going to be running for Ugly Bastard. It's just free damage here. It's an insane multiplier. It's just free if you can get your hands on it. Mantle of Mountain Fury for the double damage for earthquakes, right? Really easy to get. And Ariat's Bearing. Ariat's Bearing is going to cover most of your resists and most, if not all, the Call of the Ancients cooldown, right? If you happen to not get all the cooldown you need here. You can just swap movement speed, or just, you know, by having Call of the Ancients on your rings, you don't really have anything here. It should more than cover for whatever you're missing here, so you should be more than fine here. The rest doesn't really change too much on the build. We do move some of the aspects down around a bit, right? But for the most part, you don't have to worry too much about it. Now, when it comes to this aspect here, you're gonna have a bit of a hard time getting your hands on the executioner aspect super early. The easiest way for you to get this is to go do some Infernal Hordes, try to do the ones that have 6 waves, and always open the big chest. There's the good chance that you'll drop this there. When it comes to the Ancestral setup here, you're gonna be able to see that you actually have more or less the same amount of points between the last setup on the starter and the Ancestral here. This is just so you have an easier time swapping from one to the other, and then you have the Ancestral bonus thing. This is just, again, fleshing out the board so you get a bit more damage and know a bit more where to go. Here, we're just gonna be adding onto our glyphs, we're gonna be adding Executioner. Everything else stays the same as the starter. We just, you know, move things around. Going over now to the Mythic setup, you're probably gonna be running this a bit more. Actually, before you go into this, I forgot to talk to you guys about the boss powers, right? So, for our main boss power, we're gonna be running Torurska's Rage. This will give you, I believe, 20-25 more or less damage. I don't quite remember the value. And it's gonna give you attack speed, which means you'll be able to drop the attack speed we had here and just get another damaging aspect, right? This will get you close to 50, which you'll be proccing, you know, the Earthquake super fast with your Lunging Strike. For our secondary powers, you're gonna be taking Lilith's Wing of 8, if you already have access to it. This will just make it so much easier for you to kill elites. We're gonna be taking Harbinger of Virtuous Volley. This will make Vulnerable super easy on your build. You're not really using your resource for anything else. Whenever you actually get that amount of resource, which was the reason, by the way, we were taking the additional resource up here, and Lusuri, just to proc this even more often, right? You're gonna be proccing this, you're gonna be getting the increased attacks, the increased damage to vulnerable enemies, thanks to Torurska's Rage proccing. And lastly, we're gonna be running Blackmail or Sabotage. This single-handedly, together with Rowling Cry, it's gonna make you basically immortal. It's just gonna constantly have you maxed shields on your build. It's just insane resist. Now, actually going into the Mythic setup, the only change we're gonna do here realistically is just to slot in Ring of the Starless Skies. Normally, you wouldn't be able to proc this. Oh, this is wrong, by the way. I have no idea why it's Whirlwind here. But yeah, Ring of the Starless Skies. Oh, what? Oops. Ring of the Starless Skies. Normally, you can't proc it with Lunging Strike. The way you can actually proc it on this build now is thanks to this boss power here, Argent of Virtuous Folly. It will actually, you know, use some of your resource to proc itself. And this, we tested it out on PTR, actually works with Ring of Starless Skies. So this is just free 50% damage bonus to you. At this point, since you're also getting a bit of additional attack speed, you actually want to swap your runes around a bit and just drop the Igni Tech, drop the Moni Tec for Igni Tech, so you can consistently proc your Earthquakes much more easily. When it comes to the Mythic Paragon, you're gonna be at least expecting you to already have Regulus at 46. This means max range and already getting the second effect, right? Again, we're gonna have different levels here. Some of them are actually just taking extra points. Some of them are fleshing out a bit of the boards. For the most part, the boards stay the same from the Ancestral setup to here. You just get more range on your glyphs and you have more points to spend around. It's nothing complicated, just got to follow the setups here. I have like difference of like 20 points from each, some less, some a bit more. So just so you grab the clusters, the important clusters in order. Make sure to follow this so you have the most damage for each stage of your Paragon progression. Also, of course, since we're running Executioner here, make sure to always have your Lunging Strike on the slicing, aka your pole line, right? This, even if you don't put it here, your damage will not suffer too much, but if you do want to optimize your damage, make sure to actually select the weapon here. Lastly, the Mercenaries, there's the reason I left them to the end. It's because they don't really change. You're just gonna take right here, get the resists here, get the damage multiplier down here, and for your supportive, you can go for Alcuin, just have Fields of Anguish, and again, I have no idea why Whirlwind is still here. Just put it on Lunging Strike or any other skill that you use quite often, and you just get that bonus damage resist every now and again, which, you know, makes the build a bit more comfier. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Thanks for watching. Again, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the build guide for Whirlwind coming out tomorrow, hopefully, you know, if I'm not too late. But yeah, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you're gonna be playing the build, and let me know how you feel about the build as a whole down below. And see you next time.